Well, I'm gonna go build my own theme park with blackjack and hookers. In fact, forget the park.
Forget the station. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, one and all. I'll steal that from my compatriot next to me here, Mike, to another discussion of Babylon 5, coming into the home stretch here of season 4, the last 4 episodes. Of course, with me, Mike from Pacific 414, and Cash Money from the Phantom Hooligans. I hope we get joined by the other 2 shenanigan makers, but we'll see if they don't join, but they'll be, we'll be thinking of them, get our revenge later on. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Good.
Not bad.
Alive and well, got taxes done, getting money back, so I'm happy about that.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'll be able to afford my long hair guy, my gardener, something Cash doesn't have to worry about.
Funny.
The money, at least. Because he's Cash Money. Well, excuse me. Sparing no other ado, you probably try to still keep this kind of short and sweet, but not too short and sweet. Let us go and dive into that next episode of Babylon 5. The episode's called Between the Darkness and the Light. Last episode of Babylon 5, and of course this show, we discussed the intersections in real time where Sheridan was being basically tortured, and our thoughts on that one, and what good quality television that was. And this one, of course, we kind of pick up where we left off. They're wanting to continue figuring out from Sheridan what's going on, and they're using little tidbits where drugs and electronics to try to get into his brain and trick him into basically surrendering to the Earth First government, because he is useful as a pawn in the body. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And again, some very good acting there between those two. As we can see, he is growing his stubble a little bit more. The costuming is better than ever. The sets are better. The special effects are, great. Now, of course, as we also know, he was betrayed by Garibaldi, who is basically kind of on the run a little bit because of that, because he has friends in no places now. To paraphrase the song, and they're gonna keep on trying to wear him down, break him down. Can you see through this? Of course, with I believe a telepath. Nice exchange there, and we have, of course, Mr. Garibaldi trying to get into the resistance where nobody trusts him, not even Franklin, not even Lita. He's a little roughed up, understandable for what he did, and trying to convince everybody what happened. Is he lying? Is he not? They're wanting to kill him, but Dr. Franklin says, no, we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. And gives Lita a chance to do a mind scan on him, where she's able to break his the block that was put in there by Alfred Bester. Boy, is she badass. Both of them are there.
Mm-hmm.
But able to break that P12, which of course means that she was enhanced by the Vorlons, and sees exactly what happened, and basically get them as free as possible from Bester's influence in what was going on, and telling the truth. And you don't want to mess with her when she looks like that.
Nope.
Mm-hmm. We, of course, have the Army of Light, which is now basically right now the rebellion, you might say, is seeing people from Earth Force go into battle. They're wanting to get Sheridan back, needless to say, of course. And they're continuing on their quest to free Earth from the regime of Clark. Getting more and more Earth Force people on their side, showing that they're not this alien-influenced group of people. Mr. Garibaldi, of course, helping guide their way in. And, he's another pretty lady. Like I said, they have found a way to make sure they get the prettiest ladies in this show. Even if they have to wear bones on their heads. Of course, the League of Non-Aligned Worlds trying to figure out what they can do to get Sheridan back. Jakar basically being extremely loyal, especially the fact that Sinclair was giving asylum to him to the Narn during the Centauri-Minbari conflict, and stepping up to bat, good old onto himself, getting everybody on board that we need to get Sheridan back. What's happening is what's happening that right, and we're going to get some butt.
Yeah, because Sheridan did so much for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Delenn is such a force. That's why I always laugh when people are like, "There were no strong women on TV before."
Oh, she was a freaking violent.
She yeah, exactly. Dude. Right.
Her voice carries weight on that council.
Yes.
It does. It does. Of course, another good-looking woman that's on the strike team to try to get Sheridan back. How are they going to do it? Getting that plans, making sure everything's right, everything connected. We also have
Somebody
the
gulped.
other. Mm-hmm.
But Baron, somebody gulped.
Gulped? Yeah, he gulped.
Well, yeah.
You never gulp. You never gulp.
Yeah. The just Garibaldi being like, I can prove myself again. I can prove myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And of course, getting more Earth Force people in line with them, helping repair, of course, a wounded Mr. Garibaldi.
Yep, and Franklin tells him, "Be careful, because I don't know if I'll be able to stitch you up next time."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Garibaldi. He's like you, Mike, in a video game. We're gonna go in. Boom. Even though Cash was doing a bit of that yesterday.
A little bit, yeah.
And of course, the interplay between Marcus and Ivanova.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have. He's got it for her. Oh, and while we're at it, we are adding another figure to our esteemed list of panelists. Everybody, please welcome, swimming in from the bay, everyone's favorite orca himself, Lord Quit. Hey, Lord Chris, how you doing?
Hello.
Yo.
Chris, you having a good day?
Yeah, just a little tired.
Yeah, weekend tends to be that way.
Yeah.
And here's a site we thought we'd never see. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're doing fantastic. So, other than being tired, swimming and upending those whaling boats does take a lot out of an orca. Of course, in this scene, of course, something we thought we'd never see, these guys all in Earth Force uniforms again.
Mm-hmm.
And they're on their way in. And Mr. Garibaldi is using his influence as the man who turned Sheridan in. Of course, a little knockout time, little rush, trying to get them out, but he's still, of course, under the effects of the drugs. And I suppose that's kind of a shocking sight to see there. Franklin and Garibaldi, the man who kind of the last way he saw Garibaldi, kind of blurry. Ivanov, of course, trying to sleep on the bed as Marcus comes in and saying things to her, and makes you wonder if she heard what he was saying. But how can you not? How can you not fall for that? Going over the plotting and the planning, and they're figuring out that there's something rotten in Denmark, folks. Something extremely rotten in Denmark. And I love the fact that there's the 5 on the White Stars. And one unhappy Ivanova. And looks like they have just encountered an Earth Force destroyer, but this Earth Force destroyer is not like any Earth Force destroyer they've run across before. It's got shadow tech. Need to say, a shock to everybody. And of course, causing issues with the White Stars. One unhappy Sheridan until he finds his beloved soon-to-be wife. Welcome home. You stink, dear. Where were you? In some cell somewhere growing up?
When was the last time you brushed your teeth?
Mm-hmm. But love knows no bounds. Of course, in that little battle they had with the destroyers, Ivanova herself is critically injured. In fact, the Minbari suspect that she doesn't have a week to live from that, which, of course, is distraughting for, of course, Marcus. Everybody there coming around to see her. And she's trying to have levity to the situation to ease things up, but everyone knows how bad off it is. And of course, letting know about those Earth Force destroyers that they ran into.
Mm-hmm.
The loyal officer that we had. Of course, Sheridan does not want to take a White Star to Earth. So he grabs on board his former ship, the Agamemnon. Try saying that 3 times fast. And followed with, of course, let's go back here. We have Centauri. Of course, we have the White Star. We have, believe that is not green, but of course we have the Narn. We have the Narn and Centauri. Cash and Mike together. And it's off to Earth they go in that. And it's time to kick butt on our esteemed President Clark. And basically, thanks to that scan, Garibaldi was able to stay alive. Let's put it that way. Jakar, as I said before, Jakar and Londo managed to convince the non-aligned world to fight against Clark to help Sheridan, because in many ways their interests are at stake too in this entire thing. So now you have Narn and Centauri ships, among others, in there. And of course, not all the so-called defectors of the Rebel fleet have really betrayed Earth. There are some spies who have been feeding information about fleet movement back to Earth. So, yeah, you got the moles in there, obviously. Earth has been adapting shadow technology, which is not a good thing, and mortally wounded Ivanova, which is sad to see. And at Ivanova's request, Sheridan has assumed command of the Agamemnon once more. And begs the question, how much more technology does have Earth have? What impact did this interrogation have on Sheridan's psyche? And did Garibaldi and the others leave Mars with Sheridan? So you have all these little questions that you have from this episode that we hope to have. Of course, Jakar's feeling of debt to Sheridan is very obvious. Sheridan giving him sanctuary and aiding the people during the war, as I stated before. It's less clear why Londo would be willing to put his people on the line to the same level. But he is. One possibility is he feels he has to repay Sheridan for telling him to approach the Vorlons. Londo did tell Sheridan he owed him a favor in that one. So this looks like a favor repaid. And JMS basically said this was a nice, quiet little episode. Well, compared to what's happening, going to be coming up. And so thoughts on this episode where it's time to go back to Earth, time to take things back, time to make right.
You
What was
see the
wrong?
light at the end of the tunnel for the season.
A
And-
little
and-
rushed. Hmm.
Yeah, it did feel rushed. I think they could have expanded it to maybe 2 or 3 more episodes if they wanted to.
Hmm.
And which was the plan, because actually Intersections in Real Time was going to be the season finale. But with the questioning of whether it was going to be a season 5 or not,
Right.
everything was kind of rushed to get things done just in case they weren't able to do a season 5.
Hmm. Right, which is, yeah. And season 5 turned out pretty good, but we'll be there soon enough.
Any other thoughts on this little quick episode that's getting them into in the place for taking Earth back?
Well, I just feel like it's a lot of karma for Garibaldi, because it's just, people hate him for what he did to Sheridan, but of course then we found out he was controlled by Bester.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's hate. It's more of a trust issue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I still say some people did start hating Garibaldi because, of course, his attitude was changing, though, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you'd have to think that people might have been thinking, well, what's going on here? He was kidnapped. Obviously, something happened to him. What happened to Garibaldi?
Yeah.
And we found out, needless to say, that it was the case. And I'm sure the one person who hates Garibaldi the most is Garibaldi.
No, I'm sure he does. I agree with that.
He didn't just betray Sheridan; he betrayed everybody with what he was doing. Yeah, turning his back, walking away, acting the way he was, giving aid and comfort to the quote unquote enemy. In the sense of that, the episode where the interviews and such. So,
I was gonna say, remember, it was his interview that sparked a few flares between him and Sheridan.
Very much so, and of course that was the one thing that they didn't even have to re-edit or twist anyway. It was what you saw is actually what was said. So there was no mistake in what Garibaldi was saying in that matter, or more importantly, what Bester's and the rest of the Psi Corps' training or mental brainwashing was making him say on that one. And you wonder why people don't trust the Corps. At all.
Even as viewers, every time we see a member of the Psi Corps, more specifically Bester, we know that something's going to happen.
Exactly.
And it's not ever going to be good.
Never going to be good. When you see Bester show up, you know it's going to be good drama, but he's a rotten person.
Yes. He'll smile at you to your face and then stab you in the back.
And that smile's not a warm smile in the least.
No, it is not.
Not at all. Okay, what we'll do now is step into the next episode. That episode is called, appropriately enough, Endgame. And a little scene here between number 1 and Franklin. I was going to say Bester because we're talking Bester. I was thinking Briggs because that was his name, Richard Briggs. But Dr. Franklin. And we have a loyalist Earth Force commander out there. You're absolutely right, DJ Ronnie G. Just to break off for a moment, who is going to be a guest, by the way, next Wednesday on Pop Talk?
This coming Wednesday on Pop Talk at 6 p.m. Eastern.
5 o'clock Central Standard Time. And so be looking forward to having everyone's favorite turtle handler and nerd on that show. And I've been trying to look for that one video you asked about, and I've been having the dangest time finding it. I'm going through all my flash drives now to see if it might be on one of those. So I'm still looking for you, man. Looking for you. And of course, looking forward to next Wednesday as well. DJ Ronnie G is a great guy, even if he did get shook up a little bit a few days ago. Okay.
I hope he's feeling better too.
Oh yeah, that's right. You weren't in the best of. Yeah, you go ahead. Take it from my stream, or I can give you even the one. I can give you the a copy of what I have too. So okay. But yeah, he was under the weather, so I hope he is feeling good. So, so we have a lot of things that basically crammed in this one. It's like, this is a nonstop bang boom episode. We can see, of course, I'm going to call him the Army of Light, but basically Sheridan's force. Of course, Ivanova, who's still suffering from what she had, and Marcus by her side, never leaving her side. Distraught. He adores, he worships her.
Yeah, he does.
There's no F, ands, or buts about it. And it's just a matter of, what to do. The Minbari can only do so much. We have, of course, our elite team on Mars getting ready for their effort in the war. People dressed up in Earth Force uniforms. And what's interesting, if they're out on Mars without spacesuit, the reason why is Mars has been slightly terraformed to where where it does have a heavier atmosphere now, but it's still cold, and they still have to wear the space masks to breathe because there's not the proper atmosphere to do so. But they don't have to go out in spacesuits no more. Targeting where they need to go, wearing their anoraks, making it into their little shelters. Sheridan giving his speech. And of course, Delenn listening. Everyone listening to his speech to the rest of the fleet. And it's like, General, what are we going to do? It's like, well, we're going to stop them with everything we got. And there's Earth Force all around Mars. So what is going to happen, especially when we're dealing with the telepath issue? And we see, of course, Lita getting all hooked up to a device. Everyone working together, including Mr. Garibaldi himself. And Marcus gives an order that surprises everyone. It's turn us around. We're going back to B5. Lita goes outside, so she's unsheltered. So she has a clearer view, and all of a sudden, telepaths start waking up aboard these ships. That's a scary sight.
Mm-hmm.
And they know it's unethical what they're doing, but they got to do whatever it needs to be to keep the death count, the bloodshed down as much as possible. So these telepaths start taking over the ships. And they start losing control. Sheridan is barreling down communications, going through basically logs that Franklin had. He's finding out about a device that we saw earlier in season 1. Now, remember when I sat back and said, things in season 1 will come. You'll see something later on, and it happens to be the machine that draws life from one to another.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, Marcus intends on using. Going through the captain, the actual captain of the Agamemnon behind Sheridan, but for all intents and purposes, Sheridan's in charge, like a flag officer. He should be Admiral. Admiral. And here it is. We finally see Clark, one of the rare instances of Clark, and he's writing something down on a paper over and over again. Sheridan is basically saying demands. You got, issuing the arrest of President Clark. He's still writing. And lo and behold, he brings a PPG to his head and bam.
Yep, because he's too arrogant.
Kills
He's not going
himself.
to be.
Mhm.
He's not going to allow himself to be captured. So.
He's kind of like a certain little Austrian
Mm-hmm.
with a funny mustache. As they get to the office, he's DOA. The senator comes in, noticed he was writing on there. And the ascension of ordinary man over and over again, but things all written out. And they figure out that the Earth defense system that they have has gone live and is turning itself onto Earth. A battered Agamemnon and the others. Now they have to team up with the general, who was able to unhijack his ship, but willing to fight side by side with Sheridan. Keep on wanting to say Sinclair. To take out the Earth defense. And Sheridan thinks he's going to have to ram and destroy the last one, but doesn't have to. It's destroyed at the last minute. They get to live another day, but you have one battered Agamemnon. Interstellar Network News, the special report. We see the old, and I don't mean age-wise, anchor there.
Right, because it was hijacked.
Mm-hmm. And they had their puppets in there, and she's basically visibly, emotional, understandably so. Who would thought I'd be back here? Who would thought I'd be alive? Franklin figures out what happened with the Marcus, and now he's rushing his way back to Babylon 5 as he's watching his old logs. And there's Marcus alongside his beloved, whom he adores, and he's hooked up to the machine and giving her life, sacrificing his own for her. And that's how the episode ends.
Yep. That's the one thing about Babylon 5 is people are going to make the ultimate sacrifice, whatever it takes, because they care so much about each other. And of course, as we see in the next episode, what happens with Ivanova after she finds out about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad to see him go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a great
Because,
character.
really, Marcus did add to the ensemble.
Right. Really likable, but the thing is his death wouldn't have meant anything if he wasn't such a likable and important character.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an empty death.
No.
I'm giving away too much for the next episode. I don't think so, because we're kind of seeing him as he's going.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't like Tasha Yar's in Next Generation and Skin of Evil, where it was an empty death.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I hate to say this. We never really got a chance to really bond with Tasha Yar, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
It was only really after her death. Yeah, it was kind of really after her death when she came back in Yesterday's Enterprise and then came back as Sela, the half Romulan. But really, for that one first season, and not even the full season, and they were kind of still lost in their way of how we're going to present everybody in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Not really being able to fully flesh out her character per se. It was a shame to see the character go, but I mean, her death is like, it didn't really hold much. And there's one problem though. I think if they would have kept a couple words in there that they originally did film at the end, when she's doing the hologram, addressed to her crew from the grave. At the end, she goes, "Data, it did happen." I think if they would have put that line in there, I think it would have been much more impactful. But they opted not to. And it comes down to the things that the little things are the things that really hit. It's not necessarily the long soliloquies or the huge dramatic scenes. It's sometimes just a quick little phrase or a quick little word or a quick little look that drives something home,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. No. And he was a virgin too. She could have had some virgin meat there. But of course, Marcus viewing those several logs on that situation, getting on there. Of course, like we're saying, it kind of seems Rush. And J. Michael Straczynski says, okay, general response here. People seeing Rush were, in many cases, there is not a rush. Look, pay attention. We're in the fourth act of the Earth cycle, like the fourth act of an episode. You have to really start cranking. You wanted to be at white heat once you hit the ground, and understandably so. Boom. And that was kind of an important thing. It's like that wants to grab you and not let you go until the end. Boom. And it didn't hurt for the fact that they were needing to get this done before the end of the season because they didn't know where they were going to go.
That's true.
Any other thoughts on this particular episodes of Babylon 5 Endgame?
All right. War between the shadows and leading to Babylon 5 having been separated from Earth Force. It all has meaning. It wasn't like they just threw it out there in this show and then forgot about it. No. They came back to it. Just like the device. They came back to it. It's like, you remember this life-giving device from season 1? Well, it's back. And guess who's going to use it to save another life?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's Chekhov's gun. If you see it in Act 1, you expect to see it in later on in the show. Or it's useless. It's like, why do you even show it to me? It has no meaning. It has no purpose. Unless, of course, you're using it as a red herring. Even then, it's still being used.
Yeah.
But in this case, yeah. Now, not only do we see that, but we also see the terrible impact. It was used to help save Garibaldi. That was passing between Sheridan and Franklin, monitoring each other, make sure that not too much life energy was taken out. In this case, however, it was Marcus by himself, and about the only way to heal her was to use all of his life energy.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, leads to... Oh, got the wrong one. Leads to that scene right there. And unfortunately, I don't have any a lot of pictures for this episode.
Yeah, they didn't add many. Shame on you.
No, but there is one thing you can take just from that screenshot right there. The acting of Claudia Christian, top notch.
Yes.
Well, oh yeah, I agree. And
she's great in this.
Yeah, go ahead, Crit. Did you want to add some more?
Yeah.
Oh, is this the episode where she's like, "I am God" or something? I don't remember how it went.
No, she's grieving over the death of Marcus.
Yes, Marcus had just passed away.
Oh yeah, yeah. Losing Marcus was sad. He added a lot to the show.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, we get Space Jesus as a replacement.
Not really, but
not really. Yeah.
I mean, they're both English, I think. But
no,
that's beside the point.
Right. The whole situation of, once again, it's war, and it's like, oh well, it's supposed to be happy time. It's not, because there's still sacrifices being made. It's not time to celebrate. Clark did a lot of damage to not just Earth, but to a lot of people, and even though he took his own life, there's always ramifications after war, of course. Even in this show, and I think it's important that they show that. And it sucks what happens to Marcus, but he felt that's what he had to do. So
Well, yeah. Again,
save the woman he loves. So.
Mhm. And how can you have a situation like this where everybody comes on unscathed when this is actually showing that, yeah, there is loss? If you're going to have that hero's journey, you're going to have loss along the way. People that you like and admire might not be there the next day or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helped drive this home.
Yes.
With this, so it was there was a death that was necessary in this. There really was. And spoiler alert, Collier Christian doesn't come back for season 5. And JMS said that made it known that if he had known that there was going to be that problem, it would have been Ivanova who would have died, and Marcus would have lived.
That would have been interesting too. I mean,
Right.
either way, I think it would have worked. There would have, the sadness would have still been there. The anger would have still been there.
Mm-hmm. Right. They're on a different level.
Right.
Mark is probably more of a broken man
Yes.
with all that, losing whatever meaning. And maybe it would have been better for season 5 if it happened to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't know fully. They had everything all done and ready, and they found that out. Then they brought in that line that she is captain of a Warlock-class ship. She was originally going to be Babylon 5 commander for season 5, but we can talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of tying up loose ends episode here, not in the sense of necessarily combat or such, but what happens afterwards, which sometimes we don't necessarily see. The battle's done, but we don't see the aftermath of everything.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. We have 30 telepaths that were used out of the 100 that were used on the ship, and we are basically led to believe they no longer are with us because of that. She's resigned, and Ivanova's, of course, like I said, resigned. She's going out to on the Warlock ship. They found Sheridan's father. He's been released. His mother was never found. In fact, she's safe with family in Minneapolis. Ha ha ha! Minnesota. There's another Minnesota connection for all you people out there. Londo has been given asked to return to Centauri Prime because the regent is ill, and after his death, the royal court plans to name Londo the next emperor of Centauri Prime. And Clark has been succeeded by Susan Lutchenko of the Russian Consortium. So that is the new president. And of course, the League of Non-Aligned Worlds is turned into a new alliance, you might say. So it's kind of like seeing from the League of Nations to the United Nations type of thing.
Well, it had to happen. So.
Mm-hmm. And while Sheridan is being basically kicked out of Earth Force, but doing so as a hero, but they can't keep him around because of we have somebody backstage, everyone's favorite troll of all time, Mr. Phil McCracken. Phil McCracken, thank you for joining us. How are you doing today, sir?
Sorry, I'm a little late, but I'm doing.
Oh, no worries.
Oh, I want to say a special hello to Space Jesus. We need more Space Jesus.
Well, you'll get it next in the next season here at Babylon 5. So, we can also see here, and of course, that scene with Claudia there, the scene that she had in there. And, you can tell she's not wearing any makeup for the scene, that normally is put on it. That helps show the grief that she had and how she's acting in there. And like you said, Mike, this really showed how good of an actress she was. You really could feel that pain that the character has in the loss of Marcus. And of course,
yeah, not only by seeing it visually, but you could feel her anguish over the loss.
Mm-hmm. How?
She's like, if only I'd let him know that I did like him.
Mhm.
But she was afraid to let her guard down
Right.
Right. You got it.
because she was afraid to show weakness.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Yes.
And she could at least balk him once, which of course was gave him a chance to have a little bit of laugh out of that in that moment. Understandably so. You got to have a little bit of that in your grief and pain. But yeah, the situation they're in, all that, it's like, she's a strong woman, maybe a little too strong, you might say, like anybody might be, not just a woman, but even men. And she rises up the ranks fastest in the show. She gets basically she went from lieutenant commander to commander, and then commander to captain. So within the 4 years of the show, she's had 2 promotions. Not bad, girl. Not bad.
Well, Sheridan saw a lot in her, so it made sense why he promoted her.
Mm-hmm. And so did Sinclair before that.
Right.
And going back to the telepaths, good old Bester decides to have a talk with our esteemed Captain Sheridan, and basically wanting to know the fate of his beloved Carolyn Sanders. And through the threatening and all that, and Sheridan sat back and said, "No, she's still alive. But if I had to use her, I would have."
Mm-hmm.
Out of all the episodes of Babylon 5, this one upsets me because I always felt they should have had one good thing happen to her. One. And I was pretty little sad that, I don't want to say the love of her life, but, her interest, dies in a not a good way, That machine is, evil. But I guess he felt that he needed to do what he needed to do, sacrifice himself so she can live. So, but yeah, I don't want to say they kind of shortchanged the character, but I just wanted one good thing for her. One. It doesn't seem the world is nice enough to give her that one good thing. And yeah, this was sad. This was really sad.
Oh yeah, it hits home. It hits you in the gut.
And also, go ahead.
Go on. No, you can.
Oh, also in this episode, of course, we get into the Garibaldi has to save Lisa, the woman that he had issues with before, but was in love with, and they're finding that love again. So, but
and not only that, but she gets William Edgar's money. You can't beat that.
That's right.
She's one of the richest women in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Not the queen, her. So, yeah, not even Oprah. She's richer than Oprah. Who would have thought? But yeah, I think this episode really ties up a lot of those loose ends, you might say, that was needing to get finished up. It's like, well, what happens now? What happened to Sheridan's dad, who was played by Ron Howard's father?
Right, that's crazy.
And what's even crazier is the episode was directed by Tony Dow, Wally from Leave It to Beaver.
Wow.
But several episodes of Babylon 5 actually were, believe it or not. So
yeah, see, there's an example of someone who was a child actor, went back into acting with the new Leave It to Beaver, but he found his calling as a director.
Right. And directed several episodes, not just Babylon 5. So, so you get a lot of what would you say? Connections to the past, you might say. It's nice. And unfortunately, Tony Dell's now no longer with us, sad to say.
That's true. Lost him not that long ago.
Any other thoughts on this episode?
Just Great acting by
Great.
Claudia Christian. I can't say it enough.
What are you gonna say, Crit?
Oh, I say it's really good.
Well, he said it with such feeling.
It's really good. Well,
Do you want to add any more to that, dude?
Well, I'm like trying to think. It's been a while since I watched this one. The memory of the show is fading away. But
It's available
I
on
think
Blu-ray.
I think it's a pretty. I think it's a pretty far gone conclusion to. I would have liked to see Claudia Christian been in season 4. Would it have helped? Maybe, I don't know, but
You mean season 5?
would have added something to it. I don't know.
It might have. It might have. Yeah, I mean, and that didn't take away from Tracy Scoggins, but yeah.
Seeing her in season 5 then, yeah.
But we get awesome space Jesus is the most awesomest part of Babylon 5. Cat's favorite song is sung in that.
Sure. Right.
Okay. Before Phil, what would you say? Loads us up more with BS. Again, this is an episode where I don't have any pictures to show on it, but deconstruction of falling stars. Basically, every act takes place in a different era in the Babylon 5 universes. So we see the impact of this is the season 4 finale, which was actually technically filmed in the beginning of the first episode of the 5th season. The final season finale, series finale, was actually filmed in case season 4 was the last one. Of course, shelved, needless to say, till the end of the 5th. But we get a look at the impact of Babylon 5. 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, and then 1,000,000 years into the future. And as such, also giving a little bit of hints even to the stuff that we had for season 5, stuff that will be happening on there. And as it goes, it's taken from a viewpoint of a strange bald guy with a goatee. Looks like he's downloading all this information. First, we see the return of the of Sheridan and Delenn, and they're married. No, just married is written on the show. They're coming in, big celebrations, and somewhere along the line, all of a sudden, everything we see starts just going stacking, all that, it goes away, and we see this guy, and he seems to be downloading information from this scene. And a lot of people on Earth, what we get out of this, of course, is a lot of people are highly skeptical of the Interstellar Alliance, that it will work, and they just trust Sheridan, obviously, for his motives and his abilities. And we also hear for the first time that there's a Captain Loxley who's going to be in command of the station. We find out that with Sheridan's permission, a colony of telepaths will be established on Babylon 5 somewhere in 2262, and they'll eventually go wrong, you might say. And we also know that Garibaldi will be held hostage. Well, we don't know by who. We can guess maybe it's the telepaths. We don't know, but we know that it will end in gunfire. We do know that Babylon 5 will be destroyed. But we're not really too sure how or why in the year 2282. Sheridan will also die that same year under mysterious circumstances. That's still debated 80 years after that. Popular opinion will hold that he died on Membar, but not everyone will agree. Later, a legend will hold that he was carried bodily into heaven. What does that sound like? Delenn will still be alive 100 years in the future, 2362. And we're going to find out that the Earth will be dividing the factions in 2762. And there's going to be a nasty war that happens. 1,000 years. We get a canonical for Leibowitz, if anyone's familiar with that book. But we'll find that they're trying to build up Earth after the Great Burn. And so we see all these in accordance. This episode was directed, by the way, by Stephen Furst himself, so he was also going in there. Of course, people are wondering: is Garibaldi is he going to stay on Babylon 5? What's he going to do about Lise? People are wanting to know, who is holding Garibaldi? Well, we know, but we won't see until then. We find out at the very end, of course, that the Earth is the sun goes nova in 1,000,000 years, and the person that we see that's compiling all this information turns into a non-corporeal entity, kind of like Lorian did in Into the Fire, or even like the Vorlons, and goes into a Vorlon-style countersuit and goes on his way to New Earth, which is the Vorlon home world. So it sounds like 1,000,000 years in the future, the Rangers are still around because he's wearing a Ranger-type uniform, but humanity has evolved much like the Vorlons were saying, and we can kind of guess that our esteemed Minbari has also, but we don't know exactly if that's the case. Another thing, when you had the Big Burn episode, which is kind of a holodeck episode, you might say, or a portion of that, you see a man by the name of just a second here. You find a man by the name, I'm trying to remember what his name was on here again. Daniel, played by Eric Pierpoint, who played in Alienation. He was George Francisco. And he is kind of part of like secret police, you might say, type of thing, who's trying to instigate a war using the kind of a hologram type technology, AI, trying to use our esteemed heroes as puppets, having them say things they never said, inciting things. But there's one thing: the Garibaldi hologram dummy doesn't cooperate, you might say, and sends the information out to the other side of what Daniel's doing. That causes the Great Burn. When we go to 1,000 years, when they're building up the society, we meet Brother Alwyn Macomber. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. That played by Roy Brocksmith, who we've seen in Total Recall and Star Trek: The Next Generation. He was in there as well. And, basically it's a two-man play in that between him and this other monk who's questioning his faith. And they're going over and speaking about how our heroes are like the saints of old. And at the end, we find out that our brother Alwyn is actually a ranger sent there to help bring Earth back into line, but not too fast. He thinks that this young upstart is going to be a good addition to the Rangers when the time comes. But before that, when we're looking 100 years after, you have kind of your talking head debate, which is that scene we have up there from around various points. And they're going over, and basically kind of what you expect a lot of people to be. They're basically destroying, deconstructing Sheridan and the whole effort, and besmirching him until Delenn comes walking in and basically dresses him down. And they say, sheepishly, do you want to say anything? It's like, you won't even listen. And she walks off after admonishing him live on the air, basically calling them all fools and liars. So what's your thought about this episode that was basically a last-minute fill-in for a season finale?
I thought it felt more like a filler episode.
Agree with that.
Than a season finale. I think they should have had the season finale be the last episode and then go into season 5. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, they needed to have an episode to. They needed a fully contract out for episodes. So I can understand why they needed.
I understand that too, but
yeah,
to have an episode that was basically a filler as your finale, it's not really ending the season on a strong note.
No, I agree. I mean, it's an interesting episode. It's an interesting filler episode, to say the least, in this whole thing. But did we get to the part? Yeah, we went over that with her speech where she admonishes them all.
I actually liked this episode. Mm-hmm. In particular, that scene that you got on the screen right there. Mm-hmm. Kind of reminds me of a CNN, when back in the day when you could watch CNN. Right. And it's still as chaotic as it was back then. But anyway, I like the subject matter the three were discussing.
Me too.
It kind of reminds me of when people discuss, 100 some years later, the Civil War. Was Sheridan in the right? Was Sheridan in the wrong? Did Sheridan do everything? If you ever notice when you after the event, normally about good 30, 40 years and onward, everybody starts questioning everything. Well, like Monday morning quarterbacking. It's a different situation when a person is there at the event. And people question, well, why did they did this? And when you watch it, it kind of gives you that reminiscent of the Civil War, where people were choosing sides, and Sheridan chose a side. He chose that he couldn't deal with Earth and how the president was out of whack. So he did what he did, not by choice. That was forced upon him. It was either comply or rebel. And, that's in particular in our own world, You have to question things. Sometimes when you swear an oath, sometimes if the thing you're swearing the oath to isn't adhering to what you swore the oath in the beginning, then I feel a person has every right to break that oath. And particularly when it involves more than just you. That's just how I feel in the matter. That's why I could understand why watching Sheridan doing what he did in declaring Babylon 5 independent. Yeah, I could understand it. Is it a rebellion? Sure.
Yes.
Sometimes you need to have a rebellion under them circumstances. When we look at our own Civil War, most of the people that fought, let's be honest, politicians wanted the war. The generals that were there in the military did not want that war. But they had no choice. You had to choose. So what do? If you choose one side, the Union, or in this case, Earth, you're feeling, well, we have to be loyal. And if you choose the other side, the South, or like Sheridan and the alliance to get rid of the president, you have to choose the thing that most important to you. If you're for us and some people, where does loyalty start? Does loyalty start in your community, aka your state, or does it evolve? Is it the nation? Well, if my neighbor's saying something is wrong, I would probably agree that something is wrong. If my state says something is wrong, then I will be for myself. I can't speak for nobody else. I will be loyal to my state because that is local. That's ground level. What involves a nation like we have, I'll give an example. If somebody from Oregon wants to pass a law and the rest of the people want to pass it, and my state's kind of like, no, this is too much, too far, I feel my state has every right to say something. And in cases, if they feel they're being oppressed, do something about it. So, again, that's just me personally. So that's how I feel about it. And I feel in this case, Sheridan did what he had to do. Yes, he broke his oath to Earth, but he was in the right. He
I
was in
agree.
the right. And particularly the two to the left, the two people to the left seemed that they were, supporting Sheridan's causes. And the guy to the right, while you cannot deny that he's right in saying he broke his oath, but technically he's choosing the wrong side, in my perspective of it. In my perspective. Again, that goes in today's world. How somebody sees Robert E. Lee is totally different from somebody technically from a southern state as opposed to somebody from a northern state, which, by the way, a lot of people in North did like Lee. Just one state. But, everything is done with smoke and mirrors. And when you're living in an event, you have to act upon what's there at the time. You don't have the luxury going 50, 100, 1,000, a million years to say, oh, look, this is what we should have done. Right? I mean, our world is different than it was 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, or even 2,000 years ago. And that's really not that big long distance of time. I mean, 100 plus years ago, people were riding horses for transportation. They didn't have cars. Today we have cars.
And now they ride horses as a hobby.
Yep. As leisure.
Right.
100 plus years ago, someone steals your horse, a horse thief is hung. No questions asked. If he's found guilty, he is hung. Today, someone steals your car, they're out in a couple hours. Society as well as people change, sometimes for the good, but guess what? Also, sometimes for the worst. But I did like their little debate, how that was set up. Yeah, and I like that you have people thinking, was Sheridan in the right, in doing what he did. My opinion, yes. He couldn't just hand Babylon 5 and everything over to the president and Earth. He couldn't do that.
No, because we found out the president was corrupt.
Yep. And again, my feelings is, when the situation with Mars, as we talked before, in this reality, Mars is a situation where it's at that time where, maybe they needed to be independent. And the other place, Prime, I forget the name of it. The other place needed its independence. Look, if we colonize Mars tomorrow, and for 100 years, Mars would be dependent on Earth. All right. But 100 years after that, when the people that living on Mars, establishing on Mars, I guarantee you, they would start thinking we're better off home rule as opposed to be ruling over by that little planet Earth over there. It's logical. It's how things evolved. Happened before, happened again. So, but I just like this episode because it gets your mind thinking. And like I said, I like that. They kind of set this up like a CNN style when still CNN at that time still young. So
still young, still respectable. People tuned into them. They tuned into NBC. They tuned into ABC. It didn't matter which of those stations they tuned into. They got their news.
Yeah, I don't see the same thing with a lot of panel shows. I mean, there's some conservative channels I see that they just have better panel shows than this other stuff because they usually say the same thing, and it's a lot of gobbledygook. It's amazing that's why it's so funny. It is. And it's funny because of you watch something like Babylon 5 and you definitely can compare how the news media is even now, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it. because there are still journalists out there who actually care. I just don't think there's that many anymore. I think their narcissism and other stuff is taken over.
You could feel, and I'm speaking for myself here. I could feel back in the 80s there was a standard. All right. Now, even at that time in the 80s, NBC tended, not as much as it is today, a little bit to the left. It always seemed to dislike a certain elephant party. No matter what they did, they just seemed to hate it. But the other ones at that time, CBS, in particular ABC, they were down to earth, reasonable. The news was reliable. You could watch ABC News, and if you saw the exact same news at the same time on CBS, it was practically the same thing. But it isn't like today where they rely on rumors. And I think it's because part of it is politics in the news, but also the race to be the first to put the news out. Rather than being safe and say.
Whether then they check the facts or not,
right?
They want to get it out there first.
Yep.
What just like with Babylon 5, like there's always comparisons to what the media would be. Same with stuff of weather and so on. Like with weather, it's like, okay, you can count on the media. With a lot of other stuff, you're not sure. Certain local stories, sure. Other things, though, no. And just that's why, once again, when you watch Babylon 5, you definitely can always make some comparisons to things that could happen in real life. And the way these people talk is stuff that we've seen in real life. So, just in this scene. But I would say, even though this is a filler episode, I don't think it's bad.
No.
And I don't think it's bad. How they portrayed the news from the beginning, when the president of Earth pretty much took over the news agencies,
right,
and installed people that were going to report the news how he wanted it. Kind of like in today's world,
in a lot of it, yes.
Back in the day when a news agency or even a newspaper got something wrong, they put it out again the next day. We got it wrong. Now, granted, if it was a newspaper, and even on the news on television or radio, they didn't do that at the very beginning of their show or whatever they were airing, or on the front page of the newspaper. Sometimes you had to go to page 5 in the newspaper to find, we have to say we reported this wrong, or an extraction or something. In a lot of cases, the damage is done.
Yes.
Whatever they reported wrong, and this is even back in the day, that it cause irreversible harm a lot of times. People lose their jobs. People, if they're being incarcerated or just straight ostracized in the community, even if for a mistake. So even in today's world, that part doesn't happen as much. But I can point out numerous times where news agencies got the facts wrong and will never admit to it, or when they do admit to it, it's, at the end of the show when no one's watching, or when the least amount of people are there to hear it. Or, I don't know, people still read newspapers, still on the back of the pages, not on the front page. So, again, things change. But in a great large part, things stay the same. So,
yes.
But I did love how they did, especially in this episode, but even way back when they split from Earth, how they had to, the Earth controlled the news. Sheridan was a little smart, so he made his own news.
Right.
To counteract it. And smart people would listen to both news from both, and then decide for themselves what the answer is.
Yes.
Normally, the truth always comes out. And back in the day, the news agency that was more truthful and more honest, and they were the ones you would listen to more. Peter Jennings was the I won't put him up there with Walter Cronkite, but I would say he's next tier under him. And ABC News used to be a great news agency. After the late 90s, that started to change greatly to what you get today. So,
yeah, it's crazy. You know, this show is like 90s that it came out. That the comparisons you can make, it just shows how crazy and interesting this show is. That, you know, it's still, even to this day.
It just shows how 30 years after the show premiered, it's still relevant.
Yes.
I remember there were talk, they had all 4 agencies back in the day, ABC, NBC, CBS, and believe it or not, PBS. And it was towards the end of Reagan's term, and they're at the White House. And, you know, they asked them, name something that you felt Reagan did good in his 8 years. And, you know, the first 3, and CBS and ABC, the person from each one didn't have no problems. NBC was kind of reluctant, but then conceded that he did some good. And the same thing for PBS. In today's world, if you had them same 4 individuals, the 2 that didn't like him would never admit to anything he did good. Pretty much he's bad, he's bad, he's bad, he's bad. And that's the sorry part about today's society. I mean, we can all agree. We can probably name one good thing a president done out of the last 5 presidents. We can at least name one. Even if you didn't like the individual as president, there's probably one thing you can say, yes, he did one good thing. But to get people today, they'll absolutely refuse to say anything good if they didn't like him. They refuse.
That's once, yeah. That's pretty much it. You know, you ask, well, what is so bad about this person? Oh, he's this. It's like, do you have proof?
Let me open my the book that I'm supposed to go off of here. But yeah, I mean, you know, Phil, I think you're absolutely right about all that. It's like, what is. And of course, also you, Mike, you know, about how we're talking about this and how this has been relevant even today. Good science fiction, I think, does that. Even if the science might not be right. In other words, you know, we you know, we're supposed to be in the middle of space exploration right now in some science fiction. But what the story was about, does it still point it to something that we have today? The science might be wrong, but what the story about is still pertinent.
Right, because people are still acting like this, even though, you know, this is a show, but people act like this in real life. So,
right. Exactly. And as I sit back and say, it's like nothing's new under the sun. You know, humanity hasn't changed, it's technology.
Right.
And that's the only thing that's changed. We've been treating each other like this since Cain decided to wipe out Abel. So it's something that's not nothing new under the sun in that aspect. We're all rotten to each other, or we can be good to each other. We all have our moments when we're all heels and cads. We also have moments when we're actually good people, sometimes more than other. And yes, there is evil. There is evil out there. You know, anyone who denies it is like, well, take a look at some of the regimes that we've had over the last 100, 200, 300 years and tell me that there isn't evil. No, it's not misunderstanding.
Yep, and
their intent was there.
And this show also has ones where they collapse, like what happened with Earth, with Clark. You know, in a way, it's like it becomes a cult, or it becomes a group of terrorists or whatever. And you know, it must be eradicated, whatever people want to believe.
Exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, when you have it still pertinent, and you can still talk about it like we are today. And particularly this episode, which is a filler episode, we've been spending the most time on in here. Of course, Phil had a lot to help out with that. But he's absolutely right. This is a filler episode, but it's still a good episode. This placement might not be the best place,
right?
But it's still interesting to see what's being discussed here. It would have been nice if they were able to put this another place, like in season 5 or whatnot, instead of where they put it for a season finale. But again, the situation at hand, we didn't know if we were going to be getting that season 5. But the final line, it's interesting, that final line between Sheridan and Delenn in there. And Sheridan goes, and I was wondering if they'll remember us 100 years from now or 1,000. And I figure probably not. Delenn states, but it doesn't matter. We did what we did because it was right and not to be remembered. And history will attend to itself. Right. It always does. We shouldn't be doing things because we want to make history. That's the last thing you want to do.
No, that's a narcissism attitude, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you have activist press that says we want to make history here by making sure certain people are in certain positions, it's like, that's not your job. And your job isn't to make history. You live in history.
When you take history, and I'm a history lover, you probably guys already know that.
You are?
Yes, I
am. Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Well, look, and there you go. You learned something new. But anyway, think of the things today that even in your world, it's still wrapped around you that could go back 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years. After about 6,000 years, we can't, our history is a little foggy going backwards. But look at it this way. Trojan War, still be people talk about it. People discuss it. People go visit Troy. People make movies of Troy. Mm-hmm. It has an effect. And that's over 4,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
4,000 years ago. Now, do we have all the details perfect? Probably not, but we can say for sure the Trojan War happened.
Yeah.
It's not an if. For years, people were telling, and this is no disrespect to anybody. As an Italian, I didn't need a German to go to Troy to tell me Troy was there. We always said Troy was there. Same for the Greeks. Right. All right. Mm-hmm. But people were still saying at that time, 100 years ago, Troy, Denver, it's fantasy like Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
It plays so much an important part in the world that everything, Julius Caesar, descendant of Trojans. All right. Now, people might not believe it, but it's a fact. He was killed, assassinated, not because he wanted to be emperor or king, because they were scared he was going to move the capital over to Troy. They feared that, because they had to believe that Rome was descended eventually from Trojans that came from Troy after it was sacked. And it was a prophecy that the Trojans eventually will become the conquerors. The conquered will become the conquerors.
Right.
And you could say, in a sense, we got our revenge on Greece. But Greece never was greater than it was when it was under Rome. It became that much Greek civilization, which Romans borrowed a lot from, was expanded across the world. You go and look at most of your ancient kings. The lineage of the British kings claims a Trojan as a founding father. Now, is it true? I don't know. But even Aeneas is in Scandinavian mythology. Everybody borrowed it. It's the Romans. We were going to borrow theirs because they borrowed from Troy, so we're going to borrow that stuff. There's always that attachment there, and that goes into effect today. Look, even with the Trojan War, with the Greeks, Everybody knows whose Achilles is,
Mm-hmm.
and about his heel. Everybody has an Achilles heel. When someone gets hurt, what do they? Oh, Achilles heel, right?
Mm-hmm.
It affects us today, and that's just a small example. Religion. Be it Judaism, Christianity, that's with us today.
Mm-hmm.
And it plays a large part on how we think, how we do, and act.
Well, I think one of the lines that we had in this episode, especially the fact that this episode is written by an atheist, that Brother Alwyn, one of his quotes was, "Faith and reason are the shoes on your feet. You can travel further with both than you can do with just one."
Isn't it funny that it takes an atheist to insert religion in a show?
Well, if somebody cares enough and they do research, it doesn't matter if they're an atheist or not.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, even when you have that, about faith, we're told that being someone that goes with faith and all that, they're not rational. We're rational, but really it takes both reason and faith to get through this world. We have to have faith. If we don't have faith, what do we have then? And I'm not talking about necessarily religious faith either, just faith.
Faith in general. I always see it that no matter how, when things go really great and they call it a golden age, that means that the bar has been pushed so far to one side. Now, when you're in that golden age, everything's great. But everybody knows eventually that bar's going to swing out of that golden age. And sometimes it goes to the far other end when things aren't going great. But if you ever notice, no matter what nation or what group of people or whatever, they always reminisce about the golden age. Even today, when you talk to people in general, just people we know living, they talk about the 80s. Because majority of people still remember the 80s. And if you didn't live in the 80s, you hear about the 80s. And for us that lived in the 80s, we were hearing about the 50s. The 50s were the golden age.
Yeah, I was going to say it's no different than our parents talking about when they grew up, our grandparents talking about when they grew up.
Yeah. And you have to understand, it's like I said, everything is affected by the moment, like right now, today, 2024. And you can't, the past can't affect 2024. There's nobody from the past that is here today. They're deceased. But from 2024 on, people are going to look back. Now, how they look back at us 5 years from now, might not be too much different. But 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. And trust me, there's the worst thing as a person of history, when other people do this as historians, try to cookie cutter how life is in 2024, and then try to equate that to somebody like in 1870. You can't. They're the way they think, the way the society was, and not only that, how they lived. 1870, there were little stores, but overall, if you didn't grow food, you didn't have food. It isn't like today you go around the corner to the supermarket and you pick what you need. You want crushed tomatoes, you better be growing them, and then you better be cutting them and canning them for the at the end of the season for the winter and everything. That's just a different thing. I mean, like I said, with horses were 100 years ago and going back, that was the mode of transportation, the mode, besides foot power and getting on a boat. All right. And laws were here in effect, and rightfully so. If you stole a horse, you got hung because you took someone's livelihood. Today, our mode of transportation is the automobile. If someone steals your car today, they'll be out of jail by next morning tomorrow. You know, we're tolerant. Where, you know, few generations back, we're not that tolerant. You do that, you're going to do it again and again, and we're not going to put up with it. It's just an example. You know, I'm not trying to say hang people. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying how things were different. And we can't judge how things were different. Because if we were living back then and our horse got stolen and we saw it, you better believe we would be doing the same thing that they would be doing. Either shoot them or hand them to the law to hang them. You know? And that might sound barbaric. Well, you know, we're one flip of a switch, one solar flare away from living like the Amish or living exactly how they lived 200 years ago. That can happen in a heartbeat. So, and it's a different story when, there's no grocery store, there's no cell phone, there's no car. How you going to move around? How you going to eat? There's people today, if the power went out for 2 days, they would freak out.
Remember, if we lost power, there would be no way to get gas.
No.
Because the pumps require electricity.
Nope. I was told, even back as a kid, our civilization is on a thumbnail that if it moves one way or the other, our society's gone. Now, it doesn't mean completely gone, but how many of us could live like they lived in the 1800s or 1700s? We couldn't. There's some people, there's no McDonald's.
Very few.
Even during COVID, there were people freaking out they couldn't go to McDonald's. They have no idea how to cook. They couldn't boil water if their life depended on it.
Oh, Cash wouldn't know what to do without getting in Starbucks.
I would.
You know?
Don't bring me into your nonsense. Put you back in the dinghy.
That's true. Think about it. We use coffee. How are we going to get coffee from South America, Colombia, Venezuela, if our society, due to like I say, a solar flare, just simple solar flare, pushes us back to 1800? We're not getting coffee, people. We're not getting tea. You know, we'll have to come up with some other contraption, but that's gone. That's gone. As a kid, and probably Mike and Baron can probably say more than Cash and Crit. How many times you ever hear people actually going anymore? Let's go pick some apples. Go pick some go pick some strawberries. I don't want to do the today's generation. I don't want to do that. I go to the store. It's not just about the quality of the food. It's the event of actually picking strawberries, picking peaches with the people you're with. You know, that changes. And like I said, if tomorrow that's all gone, will the person know how to go, well, I'm going to climb up this apple tree and pick apples? They probably don't even know the apple trees where apples come from. I'm just, I'm trying to point this stuff out, how fragile things are. And all it takes is one event. Here there was an event was Sheridan deciding he had enough with the president. Takes one event. And here you have in this little three people here, there are two people saying he did the right thing and the other guy, no. And as much as he can say no, and I can respect it, none of them three were there. None of them really know what he was thinking at the time. And the only thing I can equate that to is the Civil War when Robert E. Lee had to decide. And even his own wife, she said for a whole day, he didn't speak to nobody, didn't come out of the room, and all he did was pace because he didn't know what he was going to do. The bottom decision that made the decision that he was going to choose one side over the other, family. Not just the state, it was family. Could he fight against his own family? And the answer to that was no. All right. Now, people will question loyalty, but in my 3 tiers of loyalty as an individual, my first loyalty above everything is my faith in God. My second loyalty is to my family. And third is to my nation and country. That's it. If my country and my family are against the first, God, then I'm choosing God over them. I'm sorry, that might sound cold, but that's how I see loyalty. And if I have to choose my family over a country, yes, I will choose my family. Family comes first. That's our first group. That's the first inkling of knowing how to live is through your family. You don't get away from that until you go to school. And then you can say community, neighbors, and so forth. But I can't tell you anybody here. I won't speak for them, but I couldn't say anybody here. If you had to choose between family and country, I guarantee you every single one of us would probably choose family. Comes first. Even if you feel the side that you're choosing, the reason you're choosing it is wrong, you're going to choose family first. Excuse me. For me, second, God first. But you know what I meant.
Yes.
Sorry if I went off a little bit.
Oh, no worries. No worries at all, Mr. McCracken. Always good to get that taken there. Anything else?
There's one more thing. When this comes up again, and it does come up again with Sheridan and his loyalties, it will be in season 5 when the special someone comes to take control of Babylon 5. One of the first things they talk about is what side she chose. So it doesn't, this topic of Sheridan and the side that he chooses doesn't end here. Even starts in season 5.
Yeah, I mean, there's wounds. You got wounds. There's no doubt about that. Any other thoughts, gentlemen? Okay. Well, I thank you. I thank you for keeping it very lively there, Mr. McCracken. Really so. With that, I think we should come to an end of this episode. We finally got through season 4. Never thought we would, but we have, surprisingly enough. And with that, though, not DJ. He's not coming on next Wednesday here. I'm officially uninviting him.
Well, you don't have that to say, Baron.
Well, you never know because you're used to having mutinies, so you never know.
I always see, and sometimes he's in the right to do so, that Baron, you get put on timeout quite a few times over there on Pop Talk. I have never seen you put the revenge button and put little Mikey in timeout.
He's done it. He's done it.
Oh, he's done it.
At least once. At least once. You weren't there though.
But with justifiable reasons, or was it because a little revenge?
Maybe both. I don't know.
You're such an evil man. Such an evil.
I never said I wasn't. Never said I wasn't. Well, with that though, Phil McCracken, do you have anything of interest you want to promote or say?
On the 15th of this month, going to start finishing up the Lord of the Rings with Phantomology.
Okay.
And after that, when that's completed, I am going back on hiatus. I'm not feeling that great, and I'm just going to fulfill my commitment, and that's it. I will be debating it whenever Cass decides to do it, which I've been waiting a long time. Where's my Myth Force?
Don't forget.
we already played Myth Force on stream.
Don't forget, Phil. We got Rome or Shogun to talk
Shogun,
about.
yes. I definitely. I want to see the new Shogun and see what they got right and got wrong. I love the original 1980 Shogun. I love that.
With Richard Chamberlain, yeah.
Yes.
And coming in from Pingalon 5, it's Low Spec Linux Laptop. 2 penguins enter.
One
penguin
leaves.
leaves.
That's right.
Yeah. 2 penguins enter. One penguin leaves. It'd be interesting to have your take and your comparison between the 2 shoguns here, Mr. McCracken. Okay. Mr. Space Jesus, also known as the indubitable Lord Crit of Everest Productions.
Oh. You scared him, Baron.
I think I did.
I think
I did.
Wow, that's pretty good.
That or he's praying to Space Jesus.
I think so.
Or getting the song ready for Cash Money, but Cash Money loves it.
Or fell asleep. I don't blame him if he did, yeah. Phil, you put him to sleep. How could you?
Put him to sleep.
Well, we'll move to Mr. Cash Monet of the Phantom Hooligans. And the Crit comes back anytime here. We can have him speak. Mr. Cash Monet.
Yep. We got another multiplayer Friday next week. And then I'm still working on another video. I just put out one recently about Persona 3 Reloaded. And I'm hoping that if people are interested in that series, they should give it a try because there's so much involved. I know that even some people from Phantomology or that are around like that series. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some more videos put out. I just thought it was time to finally put out a video on my actual channel of an article. So I found something interesting, and I'm going to be putting out more. And then now that I have the restream thing figured out, and it actually streams on the scheduled stream, which is awesome. And Mike learned about it too. So now I can not have that issue anymore where I'm streaming to 2 platforms and it makes another stream. It schedules another stream. So yeah, now Persona 5 Royal will be starting finally soon. So.
Yeah, when you told me that, Cash, the emotion was almost to the point where I actually believed that you might not be an AI. But I am glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that the AI programming was done enough that you do these shorts now, even though you kind of sounded like Kermit the Frog when you started out. So.
Did I? Did I a little bit?
Hello.
I hope not.
Oh, I mean, that's what I thought. So it's like, hello, Kermit the Frog. Catch the frog here.
Did it sound bad?
No, it didn't sound bad at all. It sounded good. So
awesome.
But it's good to see you doing that there.
Don't worry, I'll make sure to have a comment for you next time.
I know you will.
Whatever you do.
Oh, you always do. Yeah, of course not.
We have to bust each other's balls if we don't. We're doing something wrong.
But it's good to see that in the Persona 5, and yeah, definitely. You can't wait for the other ones that you have coming up there. So
yeah,
and of course the gaming stream that we'll be doing here. So.
On the Phantom Hooligans, yeah, we'll have some other gaming streams that we'll be playing together. And when you get Fire Team and Helldivers 2 and stuff, and Myth Force, of course. We already played Myth Force, but the last time, unfortunately, Phil couldn't go as long as he wanted to. But,
that was 2 weeks ago.
It might have been 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Are you actually feeling better now, or do I have to?
We can explore that option tonight.
We'll see. All right.
But the thing is there's no dwarves. There has to be dwarves.
There's no dwarves.
No, but there is a pot piggy that likes to put people on fire while we're, killing mobs. And
I heard you were starting to become a pot piggy.
No,
I have not put anybody on fire.
No,
not
on.
I wish I could see the same thing with Vermintide too. I don't know how many times it got caught on fire last night. Did I hear a certain orchestra one back in?
He's back.
There he is. Well, I will pass on then if you're done there, Mr. Cash Monet. Anything else? If not, I will ask Mr. Lord Crit from Everest Production from his sanctum to let us know what his devious plans are besides taking over radio.
I have a Shogun stream, hopefully in a couple weeks.
Okay.
With Phil. And maybe Cash Money.
Of course, if I have to grab him by his nose.
Yeah, whatever.
Of course, it looks like the big Crit extravaganza is happening in June. So if anyone's in the wanna, I don't know. Well, Cash Money's coming, so there's at least some assurance there. But
It's getting some special benefits.
No, shut up.
It's Phil. It's Phil Churance. It's Phil Assurance. It's Phil.
Phil Assurance.
Yeah, Phil Assurance.
Things are looking pretty good for that, and hopefully no problems with the family.
Unfortunately,
or anything like that. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Promising, unfortunately.
It's just you never know for sure, Baron, until you know it's.
I know. I know exactly.
And of course, the door is open. If people want to come, I can always help plan. I'm helping Cash, so but it's a nice weekend. It's a nice weekend, and there will be games and fun, and maybe some I don't know, Uno. I don't know.
How about shenanigans? How about shenanigans?
We'll play ping pong with Cass's chin. He's like, go.
I don't think. I'm gonna see if there's gonna be a slip and slide, and I'm gonna see if really Crit does slide.
Well, I mean, we might if you want to forego we'll talk about it. But if you want to forego the later half of the con on the day, we can go to the water park.
But what else is? Yeah.
What else? Well, I'm kind of growing right now. I got Star Wars Theory.
Oh boy.
Star Wars Theory is has been liking my content, and I have a new EU project coming up.
Oh,
yes.
Awesome.
Probably will come out around the time of Scooby-Doo and the Jedi Temple or whatever that show's coming out this June. Scooby-Doo Jedi Mysteries or whatever they're trying to call Star Wars nowadays. But yeah, that'll come out maybe June or I'm hoping to get it done, but things take time and that's all I have really. I'm focused. I'm very busy. So
that's good. Good to hear that. Remember, Shaggy was the most powerful Jedi too.
That was Scrappy Doo.
Scrappy Doo was
the Sith Lord.
He was a Sith, yeah. Okay, and then of course, Mr. Mike, Doc Pop himself from Pacific 414.
Yes, sir. Well, first, what's happening on the Pacific 414 YouTube channel, Rumble channel, and Twitch channel for this week's. Tomorrow on the YouTube and Rumble channel, there's going to be an episode of Pacific 414 Pop Talk at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on Wednesday will be the Wednesday edition of Pacific 414 Pop Talk at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be playing more of Mad Max. Now, I will be making some guest appearances this week. The first one will be on Railway Nation Live this coming Monday at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, over on his channel. And then at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time Tuesday, I'll be with Pops, Ironcaster, Stone Loki, and as far as I know, Squeaky Mouse is going to be there too. And we are going to be talking about Transformers the movie. Yes, I know some of you might be thinking, didn't you just do a watch party for that movie? Indeed, I did. And Pops has asked me to join him.
I finally met one individual that went and bought the Rodimus Prime action figure.
I didn't buy it, Phil. It was a birthday gift, Phil. It was a birthday gift.
Well, I guess it's rare, so it's got to be worth something.
Just keep sending him Phil pictures of Rodimus Prime.
No,
fine. He'll love it. And GoBots.
But I do have something I did buy several years ago.
If it's Grimlock, that'd be cool.
Me like Grimlock.
There's some people out there who don't like Grimlock. Little too much. Now, the big question, Baron, Did they ever
No.
make a Space Jesus action figure?
I don't.
No.
No,
I don't think they did. No.
I think we should find. There's got to be a Space Jesus action figure.
But
from
there
Babylon.
was actually a Babylon 5 game. I'm guessing not. I'm sure there's been board games, but has there actually been a video game of Babylon 5?
No, there was going to be one where you'd fly a Star Fury, but it never came to fruition, sadly. But they did. But there was a tabletop war game called Babylon 5 Wars, where you basically doing kind of like Starfleet, the Starfleet universe, Starfleet battles, but for Babylon 5. And then there was 2 versions of a role-playing game. One was called the Babylon Project. And then Mongoose Games did for the D20 system a series of books for the Babylon 5 role-play in. And look at that. Da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
So speechless.
Yeah.
We'll have to.
It happened.
Blame it right in his face, Mike.
It happened in 1986.
There you go.
They killed Optimus Prime, and then I was never the same ever since.
Oh, there
Even
was
though they did bring him
nice.
back. And,
Might have to look into that. Is it? Have you tried it then, Low Spec? Is it any good?
Yeah, he's got streams of it. He streamed it.
Okay.
So yeah, go to Low Spec's channel and watch him playing it.
Cool. All right.
You might be happy to know that Babylon 5 game, it got leaked. You can play an alpha version of it.
oh, and by the way, they did make
That's cool,
action
man.
figure, and there is a Byron action figure. There is a Byron.
Oh, there is one.
There is Byron. We got to see
Cash.
for Byron action figure.
Just for you, Cash Money.
Just like they have Kosh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. That's nice, dude.
Yeah,
very cool.
I picked up some. In fact, I got the Veer one autographed by Stephen First. So
very cool.
Though I have to say, the Byron action figure looks a little bit spooky.
Did you have to pay extra for that at the time, Baron, for the autograph?
Autograph?
Or did you just
the
payment of the convention and that was it?
I brought it into the convention, but yeah, I did have to pay for the autograph.
Okay.
But it was very cheap and was going to the Diabetes Foundation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because Stephen First suffered from diabetes.
I understand.
So, in fact, sadly, that's what took him out.
That's what, yeah.
And so, it was the first time ever knowing anything about having to pay for an autograph. This is 1998, by the way. But it's like, oh yeah, I mean, it's going for that, no problem. You know, it's not like we have today where it's like 150 or not more. You know, to get a person's autograph, and it's just going for their pocketbook. So. Because you just might go on to eBay.
Do you know what's sad? As I'm looking through these Babylon action figures, they have Lando, but I don't see the Non. There's no Non.
Yeah, there's a Jakar one. Yeah, Jakar. There's a Jakar figure.
I'm looking.
Yeah.
If they made a Space Jesus, there's better Byron. There's got to be a Non.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, just a second here, Mr. McCracken. Just a second.
Now,
here.
if Baron pulls out a Byron action figure, I'm going to really freak out.
No, I don't have one. My figures are sadly still packed away for those. I need to get them out, but there's your Jakar figure.
There's the Jakar. They did make one.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good quality. Look at that.
Very good quality. All of them were in.
I seen the one they had even made one for the Emperor. You have one there. But yeah, I'm in a state of shock. They actually made a Byron action figure.
I didn't know that. They even made a Loxley figure too.
Oh, and what's that one guy that's there's like 30 of them and they all have the same name but sound different?
Zathras.
Yeah, there's an action figure for him.
Well, they even got a shadow figure.
But Zathras.
Yeah, Zathras. Not Zathras. Zathras.
No one listens to Zathras.
Yeah, I wish there was a little bit, that series of action figures were a little bit more, but sadly.
Marcus looks the most identical to the actual actor. So, I just can't get over the fact they actually did make a Byron.
Oh, simple. Zathras. DJ Zathras. That's Zathras. Not Zathras. Zathras. No. Not Zathras or Zathras, but Zathras. Okay, that's Zathras. So get that right. Zathras. And with that bad comedy bit, I think it's about time that we go. But before I go, I just want to thank those who were in the chat. DJ Ronnie G, of course, who I don't know if he's talking about the show or the five of us. Of course, on the panel in here, Mr. Philip McCracken of Release McCrackens. And everyone's favorite penguin besides Punk Waddle, low spec Linux laptop, 2 Penguin Center, 1 Penguin Lead. We're going to have Penguin Dome one of these days, folks.
Yes.
And of course, I want to thank everybody who did join us, but on any of the platforms that we're on, didn't chat, but that's okay. No problem with that. We like lurkers, as long as you enjoyed the show and you stayed around. And we did our job. So I want to thank everybody out there. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be. There's no reason to do this if it wasn't for you guys out there. So, with that, Mike, Cash, Phil, Crit. Thank you very much, and I do want to wish you everybody all a good night, good morning, good afternoon. Depends on where you are that's seeing this or when you're going to be seeing that. Until then,
get our bear claw now.
You can have your bear claw, yeah.
Thank you.
It's in the green room.
Looking forward to the bear claw.
Yeah, it's in the green room, so you can go get it. So take care, everyone.